Welcome back to Blue Collar Speed and Repair and part 3 of wreck Camaro to less junkier Camaro. I believe last video we did some brake work, or they did for me. Well, not for me, but for him. While I was at work, I'm here for this one. Brake system's done. Fuel system's done. There's still a lot of work to do. So I think we're going to start making a list here and see what we can get through. Just kind of start knocking stuff out as best we can. So A number 1, probably, he's going to write in the worst handwriting you've ever seen. Public education system. All right, so we got cooling system. Heater hoses. What else we got? Electrical wiring is just.
Can we break down the electrical into parts?
Probably. We'll just have to see how this goes. So wiring, just put wiring.
Okay. I'll say distributor.
Okay, distributor, wiring.
Wiring.
Wiring's going to be a big one. We got to get battery and battery cables.
Battery.
And cables, like slash cables. Exhaust.
Exhaust is a big one.
Trans lines and fill trans.
Trans fluid.
And lines.
Lines.
What else we got out here? Power steering's done. Hoses are all on. Fans. Cooling fans. So we're
let's put cooling slash fans.
Yeah, so we're doing electric fans. He just got some cheapy ones. 19-year-old budget. So we're gonna try that. Hopefully it works out. What else we got?
Yeah, that's on the list. Got the wiper motor, which is part of wiring. It's not a huge priority.
Yeah.
Got the fuel figured out.
Okay. Yeah. Install headlights and taillights.
Let's say
Exterior lights.
exterior lights.
Seats.
Seats. Not a priority, but let's say dash.
Dash.
Shifter.
Shifter, which is what I was going to say next.
Shift.
We already did expert rust repair.
Yeah.
Windshield we'll have to worry about later. I think that's it for now. I'm sure we'll probably add to it as we cross stuff off. Probably add more than we cross off.
Probably say interior.
Interior.
Kind of a general one.
Are you doing anything besides seats? For now?
Probably go ahead and slam at least once we get the shifter hooked up.
So like the center console and stuff?
Slam that plate on there.
The console and all that stuff?
So
okay.
This kind of up here is somewhat put together.
All right, so that's what we got so far. There'll probably be more. There's always more. We'll try to knock this stuff out and add to as needed. And let's see what we can get done today. All right, stuck the lower radiator hose on. That's what we have for an upper radiator hose. But unfortunately, it's a little loose up top. So I have this kind of a sleeve, like adapter deal. Take up that space. So that'll fit nice and tight. Fits good over there. Put some clamps on that. And then we'll do some heater hoses.
This is heater hose. There's also, I think, a hose clip on the intake.
You guys did a great job keeping your hardware together.
It's all together, just not organized. Do we have any kind of like padding or anything we put in between here? Can we do that on the other car?
Yeah, let's get everything in place and then we'll figure
Well,
out.
I mean, because the
Best route.
it's on there, so. Because I mean, if the fuel lines heat up once a vapor lock,
Right.
or even just like a rag on this. Yeah. Yeah.
We're already there. All right. So we got that.
You want to clamp it on instead of one of these?
Heater hoses. Yeah, it's gonna have to go into like that somehow.
Oh, into
Yeah.
right there. So I need pliers.
Yep.
Like some long needle nose for you?
Yep. The other option, Jess, is to not use that and go straight to the firewall like it would have before.
Yeah.
But I mean, these are here and out of the way.
Right. They would be a real pain to get out of.
Yep. Okay.
I think we just use the electric fans. What do you think?
Probably. Try these.
It's hard to dance it up there.
There we go. I got.
Like it's got like a little elbow.
Yeah.
How does that work?
We're gonna have to
Does it
plug.
just need to be plugged off?
Yeah. This is gonna be a little harder to get to.
Yeah.
Okay. What an awkward spot.
Yeah.
Need to twist it around to the front if I can. Okay, well that was fun.
These two?
Yep.
Heroes and heroes.
Yeah. So we need to probably cut these off. They don't need to be this long.
Yeah. Oops. Sorry.
Probably more like that.
Where are the cutters?
Probably got put away. I'm assuming we're going to ignore the fact that all these metal lines are rusty. Hopefully this will go on there. That's the only size I have.
Real big. Yeah, real big clamp you got there.
Well, my clamp assortment is not very good right now. All right, radiator hoses, heater hose in. Add a little extra heater hose to our fuel line. Give that a little bit of insulation against the cooling hoses. Let's see if we can figure these fans out. He's getting the remnants of the old shroud out down there. So the fan shroud would have been what kept this radiator in place. Trying to come up with a way to hold it. I have this kind of C-channel stuff. I'm thinking we mount that on there. Well, not mount it, but it kind of hooks over this edge. Should be able to come off of this with a tab on either end and just bolt it there and there. That'll hold it down and forward. Let me see what I have for some flat stock so we make this work. Sorry about all the background noise. It is absolutely pouring rain outside right now. Alright, so something like that is what I was thinking. Nice simple tab on either side. It'll bolt right to the core support, hold it down, hold it forward. Let me go grab the welder and buzz this stuff on real quick. Then we can get these fans installed finally. Alright, you got these kind of auto parts store brand fans. I got this all dialed in, radiators in nice and solid. These use, where the holder thing is. These use these kind of tie things to hold the fans in place. We've got fancy springs and foam pads and all kinds of stuff. Alright, which side's up? That side. So now, I guess we go all the way to each side. Something like that. Uh-oh. I thought these foam pads were supposed to go in between.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it doesn't really. Probably wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, we have them. Let's do it.
Help stick the fans to the radiator as well.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Hopefully these would be enough to cool this engine down. We don't have a shroud or anything, obviously. So we'll worry about wiring when we get to the wiring part. He did get a relay kit. And we're going to take and put the other 4 across the bottom. All right. Get these in there. And then I think wiring next. All right, got our radiator fans all in place. We went ahead and got our transcooler lines in place. Can you grab a light right there on the table? What'd you do with that pipe?
What?
Where's the? Okay. We were going to go ahead and try to get the exhaust kind of in place. So the plan was the front half of the exhaust from the red car to the back half of the exhaust on this car. So originally that muffler was routed out and we cut it out. This muffler was fine, but the front half was for a V6. So hence piecing the two together. Problem we're running into is this exhaust flange is going to end up right into these metal lines for these heater hoses. So we're going to end up having to take the heater hoses back off where we hook them to the metal lines, pull the metal lines out, run the heater hoses into the firewall like typically is done. So we're going to go fight through that and then try to get this exhaust on. Project cars are a great time. All right, took the metal lines out, ran the heater hoses just to the firewall. We'll have to do some tying off and whatnot still, but we'll get to that. Now we're going back in the air again, see if we can knock the exhaust off the lift. Grab it, help her. We're going to try to set this up in place loosely.
Let's have a little beautiful. Where do you have it? Like that?
Upside down.
Sorry.
There you go. Yeah,
sitting
and
in here?
these two line up with the studs up there.
Okay.
If I have to stick this up in there
Yeah.
and then just kind of sneak it in. Might be easier to get this side started, get the nuts on that side. Let me get this on top of this. There we go. You get that flange on there. Do we have any idea where any of the hardware is?
In the box.
Okay, where's the box?
In your head, I like it.
All right. Nothing yet.
So that goes there.
You're missing on this side. There you go.
Goes there. Okay. Someone.
I've got
I
this.
can hold it.
I've got this. Get flange up in there. All right, that stuff's all bolted into place. So I think we're just going to kind of cut this. This is obviously crooked. We'll have to straighten this one out a little bit. And then cut this one probably a hair long and then just fine tune as we need to. So I guess Sawzall and try to cut this one straight first. And then cut this one like a 1/4 inch big or a 1/4 inch long.
Over there.
All right, let me do another crooked cut. Going well.
Why don't I hold on to this?
Why don't you hold on to that?
Yes.
All right, well, it's definitely straight. Now, how do we get this one straight?
Oh.
Here, let's get rid of the extra. All right. Can we just do that?
What?
Just use this one as a guide?
Yeah. Oh, look at that. Sorry. I'm sorry.
All right.
I didn't mean
Sorry.
to go out the way.
So excited.
What do you think?
It'll weld.
All right. We just got to have me. Let's hit that with a vacuum.
Don't mind that. We were already keeping the rear because it was
Camera at?
right there. She's looking right at it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would do anything.
It'll all push out when the car starts up.
Should.
Blow into the muffler.
All right.
We'll just
Let's do we have the wire wheel out still or no?
No.
All right, I'm gonna hit this with a wire wheel, both sides, so it'll weld better, and see if we can buzz these together, and we can check exhaust off the list. Okay, mediocre weld on the exhaust, which completes all of it. I really hate welding exhaust, especially old exhaust. Always end up like chasing holes and whatever. So I think this pretty much completes the underside of the car, other than some wiring we got to do.
check this out.
Huh?
Check this out.
What are we looking at?
Look. You see how much higher this sits?
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone else out there owns a 3rd generation Camaro, but this part of the exhaust tends to hang down really low.
Wait, you can see it right here with the lower car. You can see it's all straight.
Yeah, because this section was from the red car. It was all scraped up from jack stands and lift arms and everything.
Speed bumps and everything else, yeah.
But this
it's a lot higher.
To end up a lot tighter up into the car, which is amazing.
Cool. All right. Next step. All right, with the underside done, I'm gonna start working on the top side here. He's fiddling with the shifter, trying to figure it out because he got the car with it all unbolted. I'm gonna try to wrap my brain around all this wiring. Again, this was a V6 injected car, so a lot of this, like on this side, a lot of this side would have went into the computer, so a lot of it can go away. Most of what we want is going to come out of the bulkhead connector on this side. So like pink should be ignition, reds are power, purple starter. There should be coolant and oil pressure and stuff like that in here. So let me kind of dig my way through this and see what I can figure out. All right, I think I've got what we need here. So the reds are B+. They'll go down to the starter. That gives power inside the vehicle. Pink is going to be ignition. Used to go across to, I believe, the computer. It's now going to drive our coil. White will be our tachometer. Purple is our starter signal from the key. Tan will be for our oil pressure. Green will be for our coolant temp. This tan wire that kind of does a loop-de-loop goes down to our brake warning switch. Not that important, but we'll leave it. The wipers have its own harness separate, as well as the heater box. It goes around and goes into the firewall there. So the rest of this crap can all go away. Meanwhile, they're working on interior stuff, some kind of fancy LED headlights, and I'm going to start cutting all this crap out of here. All right, I think you got all the wiring kind of figured out. There's a couple things that we got to work on. I didn't think about the fuel pump is actually going to be ran off the computer. So we're going to have to figure out fuel pump wiring. The battery he got was incorrect. It doesn't fit. So we have to deal with that. Lots of little stuff. We got dome light comes on. We tried it with a jump box. Dome light comes on. Headlights come on. That kind of stuff. There is some funky wiring stuff we're going to have to figure out later, but step in the right direction. So battery cables that ran, not battery, but you can cross off cables. Exterior lights are kind of there. Wiring is kind of there. Distributor still got to do. We still got stuff to do. But another step, lots of progress today. Are you happy with it? Happy, kind of? He wanted to run today. Welcome back to Blue Collar Speed and Repair. I'm going to continue working on Jesse's Camaro here. Last video, we did a bunch of wiring and stuff like that. As you can see, it's an absolute mess. That video we actually finished last night, and the way our schedule works is he's back to his day job today, and I'm off today and tomorrow. It's kind of unfortunate. You know, he has weekends off. I kind of have a rotating schedule, yada, yada, yada. Anyway. So I'm going to continue working on it for him. It is okay with him. I'm not stepping on any toes by working on his project. He wants it running and driving as soon as possible, and he's okay with it. Couple things we need to do to make it run, at least. I didn't take into account this having an electric fuel pump when I cut out the old wiring. That would have been controlled by the computer, which we took all that wiring out. So got to dive into that. Last video, Jesse put the center console together. After we finish that video, we have no crank. This should have a neutral safety switch attached to the shifter somewhere. So we got to dive into that, see if we can get this thing cranking. Still got to hook up like electric fans, stuff like that. We've got them mounted. A lot of little things. There's no distributor in it yet. Again, I want to be able to crank it before I can put that in. We had a list of things to do. So I'm going to quit yapping. Let's get to work. So did a little digging on the internet. Good old Google. This is actually our fuel pump relay. So per what I found, some wiring diagrams and whatnot, orange would be constant power. So straight from battery. Green would be ignition source for the relay to turn the relay on. Black with white would be our ground for the relay. And gray goes out to our fuel pump, which happens to be this wire that goes into the bulkhead. So it goes in the bulkhead, runs down along the driver's sill and back to the pump. So to test this real quick, I'm going to grab my jumper box, lean over on the ground. So again, we don't have a battery hooked up to this thing right now. So I got the jumper box hooked up. So this gray wire should be fuel pump. And I don't know if you hear that, but that's fuel pump running. So it's as simple as hooking gray wire to gray wire. The black with white, there is a bolt right here. We could just put a terminal on it and just ground that there. Orange needs B+. I might just tie into one of our big red wires here. Those run down to the starter. These do have fusible links on them. They control the B+ for inside the car. And then other than that would be ignition source. And I might actually run this inside the car and hook it to a toggle switch on the dash somewhere. That way, he can turn it off. We can hide the switch. He can turn this fuel pump off for security reasons. Or if we're working on something and have to have the key on, we don't have to leave the fuel pump running all the time. So I'm going to make some connections here, kind of figure out where to get power from, where to get ignition from, that kind of stuff. And I'll get back with you in a sec. Okay. Made our connections. Again, I just tied into the hot wire that goes straight into the fuse block. This goes down to the starter. It does have a fusible link in it, so it is a protected circuit. Grounded to our bolt here and hooked up our fuel pump wire. So now, if I touch this, so this would simulate ignition coming on. Well, may not be able to do this with one hand. Set this down. Hear the relay coming on. Should be able to hear fuel pump. I don't know if you can hear it, but fuel pump's working. So, again, I'm probably just going to extend this, find somewhere to run it inside the firewall, and put a switch under the dash somewhere. So that's fuel pump knocked out. Let's see if we can make this thing crank. All right, with the fuel pump working. Oh, stuck. Let's see if we can get this thing cranking. What do I got for a Torx bit? It's too big. Do I have one that fits? There we go. As far as I know, should be a switch on this shifter. A little wiring harness. Let's see if we can find it. Nope, I think that's the wrong one. Please don't break. Let me take more strings out. How deep do we need to go? How's this game come off of there? That appears to be hooked up. So we did get that. So is it out of adjustment maybe? Well, should be looking for this green wire and purple wire. Let's see what happens if we jump it. Put that there. Touch that to that. Do I get? No. My jumper box not hooked up. I bet that'll help. Fuel pump. Don't know if you can hear that. Why does it go off when cranking? That's weird. Okay. All right, let me stare at that wiring diagram for a few minutes. All right, figured it out. So this guy has a starter relay here that is also computer controlled, or would have been. So I just, let's see if we can see this. I just bypassed it temporarily. That blue wire there. So now we have crank. So let's see if we can get a distributor in this. We got to fill some fluids and see if we can get it to start. Okay, next step is to drop the distributor in rather. Took number one spark plug out already. Hooked up this is a starter switch, so we should have crank. So what I'm going to do, put my finger over number one spark plug hole, and when it comes up on compression, it should push my finger off like that. So now go down to the crank pulley and line up our timing marks to 0. Where are they? Where are the timing marks? Way back there. Oh, we're almost there. All right. Okay, that's lined up on 0. Let me grab the distributor. All right. What are the chances our oil pump is lined up? Probably not. Okay, kind of in that general vicinity. That should do it there. Okay. Get a wrench and snug that down a little bit. All right. Want it snug. I don't want it tight yet. I want to be able to move it. But I don't want to move it on its own. Sorry, my brain stopped working for a second. All right. Throw the cap on, wires, get the plug back in, get a couple vacuum caps for these guys. There's no transmission fluid in it. There's no power steering fluid in it. Let me knock all that crap out. We'll see if this thing will start. All right, distributor's in, top out the oil, put some trans fluid in it, power steering fluid, had to fix a radiator leak, or excuse me, a water pump leak. Let's see if it'll start. I don't know if this jumper box will handle this. It's meant to like assist a dead battery, not fully start a car, so we'll see what happens. Give it a couple, oh, I got the button here. Oh my goodness, go look at that. Oh, the mouse house. That's a lot of mouse house out of that exhaust. Hey, it runs. I think our return line is too small. Since that pump puts out so much pressure, I'd like this down to around 5. We probably have to swap this out and just run a 3/8 line all the way back. This is all the way out. All right, cool. Let's shut this off. We don't have fans hooked up or anything. We'll do that next. Where'd that go?
I don't know.
It's gone. All right, we're gonna look at wiring in our fan so we can actually run this thing for a while. So Jesse got this this cheap little Amazon relay kit, dual relay kit. It was like 35 bucks, but should do what we need it to do. So red's hot to the battery. Brown's going to go to the fans, one each. Black will be our ground, and then gray will have to hook to an ignition source. At the firewall side where the bulkhead is, there's a pink with black wire, pink with black tracer wire. That is 12 volt switched. So we'll hook these two together, run them over with our harness. That should give us our 12 volt switched. So the ground will actually ground to, I put a temp switch in the intake. You have to get around the other side. This is actually, I think, 185 on, 175 off. It does have a 180 degree thermostat, so technically that's the wrong one. But it came with the kit, so that's what we're going to use for the moment. You'll have to order separately like a 200 on, 185 off, I think, is actually what we put in the van. So I think battery goes right here. I'm just going to put a couple screws in this, or a screw or something to hold it. That we have easy access or easy connection to the battery. Get this stuff wired in. All right, opted to put the relays on the inner fender here. I was going to mount them here, but the battery sits right here. I don't know how much room there will actually be. So, trying to figure out where to put these guys. I think I might just cut this one off here as soon as I find the cutters I just had in my hand 3.5 seconds ago. These ones will work. Are the strippers and all that stuff over there? Razor blade too?
Got your collection.
Okay. Strip down a little extra here. This little protective coating. These are just like auto parts store fans. All right. The black wires will hook together. And run them over probably to the battery ground. Unfortunately, we don't have a battery yet. Guess you're supposed to be picking one up on the way home. You got the wrong one. Pretty sure I said that already, but doesn't hurt to say it again. Got a memory like mine. You need to hear it multiple times. Then we just take our brown wires right to here. Nice and easy. Oh, these hook together. That's kind of nice. Look at that. Too bad it doesn't hook on the side of that. Let's put a zip tie around it. All right. That's those. Let's put a couple wire ties down here. That's coolant in my armpit. Okay. All right, then we'll run brown wires right down to here. Leave a little bit of slack. Okay. Melt all our heat shrink. Make a nice sealed connection. All right, come on, get on there. All right. All right, so that's fan connections. Battery we can wait. Let's do ignition and ground. All right, ignition wires. I think I'm all the power it needs is just to turn on the relay. So I think I'm going to cut these and hook them together. All right, heat shrink that. Run it over, hook it up to the pink with black wire over there, and then all we got left is hooking those to our temp switch, and the fans will be done. All right, got this kind of temporarily rigged up for battery purposes here, but got all our connections made, ran a wire over and hooked it up for ignition source. So she just turns the key on. Now this coolant temp switch will ground when it reaches, I think it was 185, and turn our fans on. Hopefully that'll be enough to keep this engine cool. All right, fire it up. Uh-oh, not enough juice. I think that neutral safety switch needs some adjustment. All right, let's grab the timing light. Let this thing warm up, come to temperature. Ow! Got a bad wire. Still got to hook up a wire for the choke. No fan. Oh, we lost it. That's why. Yeah, we have no ground for our fan. There we go. Let's see if it'll cool it down. Let's go ahead and open this door. All right, got it all warmed up. The fans are going to stay on continuously, which I already knew. Again, it's got a 180-degree thermostat. It needs a different temp switch for the fan. We know that. We'll worry about that a little later. Fans are on. They are working. There are some few other things we got to deal with. Temp gauge is working. I don't know how well this shows up, but temp gauge is working. It is charging, even though we got it kind of rigged. Oil pressure is incorrect because the sending unit in there is for a dummy light, not a gauge. And we have a new fuel sending unit, but the fuel gauge isn't working, so we got to look into that stuff still. But that's probably going to be it for this thing today until I get a battery tonight when Jesse gets home. And we'll play with like lights and that kind of stuff. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Good morning. Last night Jesse got home, brought us a battery. So we tinkered with that, kind of got all that finalized. Put the seats in it. These seats he got off of Marketplace. There's some kind of special edition Camaro. I don't remember which one. They looked really good in the red car. I don't know how they fit in the blue, but or at least I don't know about the look, but they are way more comfortable than the factory seats. So he's going to run with these for now. Today I want to finalize a few things. Kind of got a list going, but coolant temp. The wire is extremely long. I'm not sure where it ran on the other engine. It only needs to go down to this cylinder head. He's going to see if the auto parts store has a new end on the way home. This should have a plastic cover over it, and we can run this down and shorten it. Oil pressure, I think I have a sending unit. He's also going to, again, check the auto parts store. I know this engine has oil pressure, but it'd be nice to have the gauge working. Again, that sending unit is for a dummy light. It's got a new fuel sending unit in it, but the gauge is not working, so I want to look into that. I haven't wired up a choke yet. Haven't actually finalized the fuel pump wiring, which is no big deal. Torque converter lockup, I want to take care of that. So this has a 700 R4 in it. This is the pigtail for the transmission. This purple wire controls lockup in 4th gear. I want to hook that up, and that is actually this purple wire here. So I just need to run that wire down, connect to the transmission. The other 2 wires on there are for computer controlled, or ran to the ECM. It did lock up in 2nd and 3rd and all that stuff. We're not too concerned with that, but we do want it locked up for highway cruising, bring fuel mileage down just a little bit. And other than that, see if we can take this thing for a spin, hopefully, and make sure there's no funky bugs. Oh, he's also got these Scamazon LED lights that are not working currently. Headlight switch and all that works. Park lights come on, but the headlights are not working, so we need to look into that. If not, we do have the factory headlights we can stuff in it. We did throw the tail lights in last night as well. All that works. Backup lights, brake lights, all that stuff. So a few wires to connect. We'll probably dive into the headlights. Okay, ran a choke wire with the rest of our harness here. Got lazy on the fuel pump and ran a switch out externally. I didn't want to drill a hole in the firewall. Again, all this wiring is kind of temporary. He's planning on doing a LS at some point, so there's no point in finalizing anything. We just want it to work. But ran a switch for a fuel pump, which is handy if we're working on something out here, have to have the key on. Don't need to leave the fuel pump running the whole time. Choke wire's hooked up, so key on, ignition on. I'll blip the throttle. We'll set the choke. So that's all working now. Let's dig into these headlights. All right, these are some, I don't know, Amazon, Scamazon LED headlights. There's 100 different brands. I'm sure they're all the same. So it plugs in normally to your headlight socket. This one uses a little adapter because this only has 2 wires. But nothing happens when I turn the headlights on. So let's get a test light and make sure that we actually have power out here. Disconnect the headlight socket. There is a tan wire, which currently has 12 volts. The green wire will be high beam, and then black is ground, of course. So let's try this with a jump box, see if these cheapy lights even work. All right, so this is the ground terminal for the car. So we hook that to there. Have a positive lead to our jumper box here. I got mess. We got nothing. So either these lights don't work. Let's try the ground on the other side. Aha! Man, those are bright. Alright, I have no idea what these other wires do. I think it's supposed to have some kind of daytime running light or something. That doesn't do anything. Alright, so what if I do this? So that's the outside ring, and that's orange. Okay. So I guess he can use those as turn signals if he wants. Alright, so it looks like basically these are wired backwards, and I can't take this apart. So we're going to have to change the wire on the car. Let's try that. Alright, I just realized I wasted my time moving those connectors around. All 4 lights came with these little pigtails. So realistically, I could have just done it that way, but whatever. Alright. We got lights. We do. We have high beams. No, I don't even feel a click in here. But He's at least got headlights. I'll have to investigate that later. All right, let me get these mounted in here. Okay. Working low beams at least. Fiddle around with the high low switch. It doesn't click or do anything. It's fairly common for these GM headlight switches to go bad, especially when they're not used in a long time. So he does have at least low beams for now. The way GMs work is the outermost light is low beam and high beam, and the inner is high beam only. These headlights are all for the same, so I could take this wire here, which would be low beam, and tie it into the low beam wire. Then he'd have 4 low beams and 4 high beams. Then he's free to blind oncoming traffic to his little cart's content. I'll wait for him, see if he wants to do that. I'm guessing he probably will. So that's, I think, all the lights working. I know the turn signals work. Still got to put the lenses in. Let's move on to something else. All right, well, power's out. So I can't use the lift, unfortunately. Only a couple things left to do. Oh, lighting's weird. Lighting is weird. Torque converter lockup, and fuel level sending in it, which neither one of those are that important really to drive it, but want to get it knocked out. He is wanting to drive this thing back and forth to work here really soon. Of course, bombing down the highway would be a lot better on the old billfold with a lockup converter, and it's nice to know how much gas you got. So we'll have to do this old school, put it up on jack stands, and the torque converter, like I said, is just a wire ran down. I'll probably just zip tie it to the fuel line or brake line or whatever, plug it in. That's pretty straightforward. Then we'll find out what's going on with the sending unit. Really get spoiled having a lift. I don't miss doing this every time I want to get under a car. But you got to do what you got to do. I'm almost 43 years old and I just got a lift, so feel fortunate to have one. It took a long time to get. That's okay. Oh, arm's getting tired. Go get some jack stands so don't die. All right, that's the connector I'm looking for. So that is fuel pump. The gray is fuel pump. The black with white on the left is ground, and I believe the purple will be our sending unit. Just going to reach up in there and disconnect that. Attempt to hold this camera somehow. And disconnect this. What's the fuel gauge say? Okay. Okay, and what happens if I do this? Okay. Well, I guess that means it's all working. So that was a waste of time. So we put about 4 gallons of gas in this thing. And apparently that's enough to show empty. So I guess we'll throw that 5-gallon gas can in that we have. And see what it does. It showed empty, like as in empty. I thought it should at least move, but apparently not. That's heavy.
We did do it at idle.
Yeah, but it showed empty right away, I thought.
I don't remember. I never looked.
I don't know. He's still on or no?
No.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Always.
Shoulder open.
Yeah, it's like pulled it or something. Not a young man anymore, crawling around on the floor. Not a good time. This is going to take a minute. Okay, added another 5 gallons of fuel. It didn't make any difference. So typically a GM sending unit is 0 ohms to 90 ohms. So there's an ignition feed on one side of the fuel level gauge, and the ground goes through the sending unit. So that resistance to ground is what shows you your fuel level. Now, typically, like I said, 0 ohms to 90 ohms. But if I go and connect this, now we put 4 gallons or so originally, and then just added another 5 gallons. Plus, we took this off of the jack stands on the back, so the car is leaning back and the float's at the rear. So this should show well over half a tank, and it's still showing empty. It's also only showing about 30 ohms. I pulled this up and stuck a screwdriver down in it and made the float go higher. It never went over 30 ohms. So we got a bad sending unit straight out of the box, unfortunately, which is why I call it Scamazon. So Jesse ordered that. He's going to have to make a case in exchange. Power's on. So we get off the jack stands, get it rolled back up on the lift, knock out that torque converter wire, and I think we can slam the hood on this thing and go drive it. All right, car's all back together as much as we can make it. Went ahead and run that torque converter wire again. It was just that purple wire at the bulkhead down to the transmission. Fuel sending unit, he already ordered a new one. It's on its way. The rest of the stuff I think is pretty much taken care of, at least enough to drive. Obviously the interior is torn apart. There's no carpet, anything like that. But good enough to drive. Jesse's actually on his way home. She's working on cleaning up the glass a little bit. We're going to take this thing for a spin and make sure it's all ready for him to put some miles on it. All right, boss lady and I just did down the street and back. Didn't take the camera. Just went a mile or two. It needs some more work before it's truly road ready. It died at a stop several times, so it needs a little tinkering. I don't know if the carburetor needs to be cleaned out or what. I can smell brakes really bad. I know these rotors are really pitted, so I don't know if it's just them bedding in or what. Need to check into that. And the big thing is the heater core is leaking bad. So we're gonna have to let this thing cool off and probably just loop that for now. It's going into springtime. Other than that, it needs shocks really bad. It's kind of all over the road. Steering's a little loose. It needs another day of tinkering probably. But unfortunately, back to the day job tomorrow for all of us. So we're out of time, unfortunately. All right, it's actually a couple weeks later. Trying to remember the last you saw. Boss lady and I went to take this thing for a drive real quick. Just kind of test it a little bit. Ran into a couple issues. Was stalling and dying at stops, and turned out that the venturis in the carburetor were dripping steadily. So we ended up having to pull the carburetor apart, clean it up a little bit. No big deal there. The other big thing is coolant leaking into the passenger floorboards. This car has a bad heater core. So we just walk all the way around the car here for some stupid reason. we ended up just looping the heater hoses together for now. It is springtime, so not a big deal. Doesn't need a heater currently. Eventually, he'd like to do a vintage air or something anyway. So, other than that, the cooling system seems to be working good. We did a lot of this stuff off camera, obviously, because, well, it's his project. So, I can't make him wait for me to film or make him film. And nor can I shove a camera in his face every time he wants to work on his car, right? So, unfortunately, you guys didn't get to see everything, but this is kind of the finished product, at least currently. Boss Lady was nice enough to run the buffer across it. Paint turned out pretty good. Obviously, there's a lot of peeling, and the roof is pretty beat up, and the clear is pretty well beat up on the hood, but looks a lot better. Other than that, everything seems to work. Headlights work. Tail lights, turn signals, all that stuff. Steer, stop, starts. He was fortunate enough to have the other car as a donor to kind of swap everything over. It is unfortunate that he planned on building this car and driving the red one, and was unable to build it the way he wants to, at least yet. A lot of little things to do still. It needs a windshield really bad. I said the headlights work, but currently the low beams work. The high-low switch is bad. Lots of little things like that. We got the correct oil pressure semi unit. The one that's in this car is set up for a dummy light, and this one has a gauge. A lot of little things like that. But all in all, he bought this car for, I think, $700. Had to buy a radiator, obviously, some fans, stuff like that. I think he's total into this car like $1,200 as it sits. Of course, like I said, he had a donor car to go to steal a lot of parts off of. Anyway, so this car will be making appearance again sometime down the road. I don't know what his next big step is. I know he's been talking about suspension stuff. The other car we put lowering springs and like just some KYB replacement shocks on, and it rode terrible. We didn't even take them off the red car. It went to the scrapper with that stuff on it. So other stuff going to come up on this car. I don't know when. Again, huge shout out to Boss Lady, and Jesse's inside right now, but for filming for me on this car when I was unable to. So other than that, if you enjoyed this car, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. All that good stuff for me. I appreciate it very, very much. Project cars are fun. They can be a hassle sometimes. You just got to stick with it and roll with the punches, as they say. So, got anything to add? Thanks for hanging out. Appreciate you guys very much. We'll see you guys next time.